guys, welcome back to Lorewatch. I'm one of your hosts, Linnea, or Nay.
I'm one of your other hosts, Reyes Size, or as my personals might know, Stringworms.
And I'm Geese Dave Goose. I'm not here, but I'm also here. And welcome to Lorewatch. We love lore, and we love Overwatch. And today, we're here to talk about the Overwatch Uprising Archives event. And for those who aren't familiar with it, Uprising was the first Archives event in game mode that started in April 11 to May 2 in 2017, way back when in the early old Overwatch days. Archives returned the following years around the same time with new modes as well as the ability to replay the previous modes. It also, of course, added new loot box cosmetics back when loot boxes were a thing. May they rest in peace. The event details Tracer's first mission as an Overwatch agent, when there was an attack by Null Sector exactly 7 years before the time of Overwatch 1, which would actually be 9 years from Overwatch 2's present time.
Nothing like going on your first mission and then meeting the villain from the future.
We love a comeback.
And
Only took him 9 years.
Ramattra always comes back.
Five Nights at Freddy's Battle Pass when? Oh, but no, Uprising. That was a fun event when it first came out. It was, I think, what a lot of people liked about the Archives events, and this is mainly towards people who only play certain characters, was getting to learn how to play different characters in like a more story-based role where you're just going up against robots. So there's not another person on the other side insulting you. It's you as Ryan, you as Torb, you as Mercy, and you as Tracer. And you got to see these four interacting along with Morrison, who I believe was one of the voices above. And I believe Gabriel was a part of this as well, also being like, okay, you guys, this is what you have to do. And this was his non-Reaper voice. This was Commander Reyes. Like, it was, and I think when that happened, a lot of people were like, wait a second, that's Gabe. That's Gabe.
I was growling and barking and biting at the bars of my cage and salivating and having rabies.
Whoa! Yeah, no. Uprising features 3 off-screen comms commanders who all dip in and out of your ear as you play along in the different sections of the game mode. Of course, we have Jack.
This is Morrison. London has been attacked. King's Row has fallen. We're on the brink of open war. Team, it's up to you.
Anna.
Our satellites aren't detecting any survivors near you. Looks like Null Sector's done a thorough job clearing the area.
And Gabe. Which, yes, this was the first time we heard Reaper without his voice changer for once.
Ray is here. Latest Blackwatch intelligence indicates heavy Null Sector numbers inside the power station.
And people went crazy for it.
We went very normal for it.
Very normal. The most normal.
See, because then we went crazy when Retribution dropped.
I have an alibi for where I was that day. I was doing very normal things in very normal places.
But no, why don't you tell us a little bit about the event? Like, I know I listed off some of the characters that were there, but what was the game map like? And for those who weren't there, I was there. I was an Overwatch 1 girly, so I might know this stuff, but not that many of our viewers know much about Overwatch 1.
Sure. The game mode had 2 versions, the All Heroes mode and the Story mode. Both had the same objectives, of course the differences being who you could play. The Story mode, as mentioned before, let you play in a team of 4 composed of Tracer, Mercy, Torbjorn, and Reinhardt, and at increasing difficulties. You could think of this game mode as a smaller or similar version of the Underground King's Row PvE story mission, only with both options to play as whomever you want or as an established team comp. And so the story behind it was, 7 years ago, or 9 years ago, King's Row was taken over by a group of Omnic extremists called Null Sector. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom had specifically denied Overwatch from sending in military backup, and in addition, Blackwatch, the Black Ops counterpart to the organization, was currently suspended due to a complaint from the Japanese government.
So this was kind of the start of the ticks before the fall of before the big drop of Overwatch.
Like Uprising. The first domino?
Or the domino getting closer to the mess.
Yeah, this was kind of the start of Overwatch being a bit more rebellious, breaking a few rules, violating a few UN agreements, you know, the works. But despite the heat coming from the public, our lovely cowboy, Colt Cassidy, was sent to King's Row to properly assess the situation. He reported that Null Sector had heavy air defenses and was keeping several hostages, including Mayor Nanda of London and Wendada himself in a heavily guarded power plant. In the game mode, you go through a different version of King's Row set in the past and basically go through a series of objectives, all while defending various Null Sector enemies. Payloads, turrets, point caps, the works.
It was like that, but like the story missions with the story, where you're defending the point for a little bit as you waited for Torb to unlock the payload, where the payload was at. And everyone's just fighting off waves of enemies coming from all sides and all that. So it wasn't like an AI army of like 6 just Orisas. It was just waves of enemies over and over again. Sort of like how Junkenstein works. Yeah, Junkenstein would be a good similar way to compare it to when it comes to defending certain things, where there's just waves, and then they're like, oh, here comes the Orisa tanks, and Orisa's like, exterminate, and then you fight it off. It's been a very long time since I've played this game mode. Yeah, so if someone's listening to it and they're like, I've played this sounds nothing like that, I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I last played this.
It's been 6 years.
It's been 6 years. I'm old.
But yeah, no, it showcases a bunch of different models of Null Sector, which some are obviously familiar to us because they are shown again in the current the Overwatch 2 PvE missions. We have, you know, the normal Null Troopers, Drivers, Eradicators, Slicers, Detonators, Bastion Turrets, which, of course, were Null Sector versions of Bastion himself, which also is referenced in a skin that came out for Bastion during that first event. Bastion tanks, which of course were just the tank versions of Bastion back when his tank form was his ultimate. And of course we have the OR-14s, which are an older version of the OR-15s, which is what model Orisa is with it, which also is referenced in a skin that came out.
We're reading a large number of energy signatures in there, Lieutenant. So be on your guard.
To me, Archives Uprising being the first of its kind really changed. Like, it was so cool when it came out because lore. It also came out with the Uprising comic, which we'll get into later, but it combined lore and actually had pretty decent PvE. Because with Junkenstein, to me, it was pretty simple, but it was still like something. It was still waves of PvE, which people enjoyed. Sure, it got a little bit repetitive because it was just, oh yeah, just defend this castle with these different robots. But here, you actually had a reason to why you were fighting. It was integrated into the lore. You'd basically taken into the past of Overwatch 1 and playing as younger versions of heroes that you're familiar with. Of course, seeing Gabriel Reyes himself as a Knot Reaper was pretty cool.
My husband, my wife, my baby girl.
Junkenstein was more or less, at least my opinion, the beta test for PvE. Just a little non-canon appetizer from the devs to indicate what was to come in the future. And it turned out pretty well.
Just, introducing us to the style of gameplay like that, where it's going to be 4 of you defending or taking care of something like that. And that was more or less, I think, like the experimental being like, okay, let's see how people are liking this before we introduce the more lore-based stuff. Because Junkenstein, as beautiful as the voice lines are between some of the characters, not canon. It's lore in its own universe, just not in the Overwatch universe.
Yeah. And you'd think, like, things like the Overwatch 2 seasonal events with their own alternate universe lore with, like, Star Watch and the fantasy thing that they did for the Battle Pass, you'd think those are new to the game, but when you think about it, Junkenstein was the first AU that was made in the game itself.
Like, Junkenstein is that queen, is that girl that, got everyone excited to trying something new and different. But Uprising is that lore girly. She's the one that was like, okay, y'all, we're going to do something different, but we're going to tell you some of our history.
And it's honestly great because 1, we're lore nerds. 2, Overwatch had a lot of lore when it first came out, but there wasn't really a way to get into it, or like for a lot of people to see it besides the outside comics and cinematics at the time. This was like far before the first short story came out, which was Bastet in 2019, if I'm correct. So with this event and the cosmetics that came with like sprays and skins that showed different aspects of Heroes lore, not even like limiting itself to like Overwatch as a group lore, like Morrison, Mercy, Tracer. It included sprays from different heroes, and it was just like, it gave us a lot more like
A new look.
Yeah, a new look, a lot more snippets into other heroes lore that isn't necessarily the Overwatch group itself, and I think that is cool. We love lore. That's why we have this podcast.
But yeah, no, because one thing it's been said by many of the writers, Gavin Overwatch has said on Twitter, a lot of the in-game voice lines for player versus player are non-canon, but these voice lines were some of the first voice lines we got. This is canon. What they're saying to each other is canon. And I think for a lot of people it was like, wait, some of these characters, like, a little snippy at each other, or like, what's the relationship with these characters, like what's going on? Like, it was one thing with like, oh yeah, no, like that's just how they act. But now we're just like, wait, this is all canon? Like, what's going on? Like, it, for a lot of us, it was going from like the kiddie pool to the pool with the water slides and all of the fun stuff, where you're like, wait, this is what I've been waiting for. I'm so excited.
Heck yeah, going in the big kids pool.
Jumping off the deep end in a very normal way.
And you could argue, like, people could argue that those voice lines aren't necessarily canon, but when you think about it, that's kind of like the Ironclad mission where you could only play those 4. In the Rio and Toronto missions, you could have a number of different combinations of parties or team comps, and they'd have conversations, but they aren't necessarily canon depending on like who you pick. Obviously, you can't have everyone having these specific conversations in the same timeline, but they are still proof that they have talked, and this is how. It's kind of like the in-between of normal PvP interactions before the game and the 4 only archives missions. Because if you only have 4 people to choose from, there's nothing else to say that those conversations didn't happen.
Yeah, it was just also nice to finally be able to to put the timeline, the Overwatch timeline, get that going, because since we knew that it was canonically Tracer's first Overwatch mission, we also knew this was post after her big incident with time as well.
Yep. 7 years ago, 9 years ago, whatever.
Whatever the new timeline is. You know what? For the 10-year anniversary of Tracer's first mission, they should drop Uprising.
For the next year, we get to play as Blackwatch again, this time in Hanamura. Please, please, please.
We need that Hanamura lore.
We need NPC Gerard there, because that one picture in Declassified about him and Blackwatch.
Make him the new Reggie. I mean, he won't be as good as Reggie.
No one can
He
replace
will never
him.
be as good as Reggie. No NPC is as good as Reggie.
This is fact. Reese told me herself.
Thank you, Reese Overwatch. But I'm gonna go back to Uprising. It was nice because you were also, even though you were these 4 characters, you also felt like you were still on the other side of the wall, because there was still, you could, whenever Jack, Gabe, or Anna would talk to each other, you could feel that tension between the 4 leaders. Well, not the 4 leaders, the 3 leaders of Overwatch at the time.
Null Sector has 3 anti-aircraft guns in King's Row.
But you need to disable the air defenses first.
Forget about it! Defend the payload! It just needs a little more time! It's going to work! Trust me!
Torbjorn, we are sitting ducks out here!
If that payload doesn't get moving fast, we are done for!
And being like, oh, I am the newbie. I don't fully know what's going on. The same way Tracy doesn't know what's going on fully with Overwatch, but there'd be just little things and tones in the voice actor's voice where,
Here's your chance, Oxton. Show me what you can do. Just come home safe.
I love a video game where someone tells you what to do. Yes, order me around. I'm stupid. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to do.
it was so nice because, they were just like, you gotta make sure this thing gets to safety. It's your job. And I was just like, yes, it's my job. I'm Tracer Overwatch.
You're right, Dr. Ziegler. I know there's still hope for the future, but it's up to us.
Yeah, and you're just like, hallelujah, I did a good job. Put that on my resume. Be like, did a good job for Overwatch.
Jack Morris in Overwatch said I wasn't a failure.
Put him down as a job reference.
Oh no.
See how quickly you get kicked out of a job interview for that. Probably not too quickly, because some older people would be like, you worked for the government, that's so cool.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I totally had a government job. Yeah, don't Google that.
Oh yeah, that gap in my resume, that's when we disbanded for a few years.
The UN said we couldn't work together. Don't Google it! Just letting you know, that way you just have that answer.
Do not run a criminal background test on me, because I am technically breaking the law by still being in contact with my coworkers. Don't Google why. Just trust me on this.
Don't Google what a Winston Overwatch is.
Harold Winston, my boss, don't Google him, said that I did a really good job. And my direct manager, Anna Amari, don't Google her, also said the same things. And I got really good notes from one of my coworkers. She went by the nickname Tracer. Don't Google her! Said that I had really good communication skills.
Comic time?
Comic time, let's go to that comic.
So with the event, they also released the Uprising comic, which the main artist was Gray Shuko. Main writer is our beloved Michael Chu. We miss him so much.
We love you, Michael Chu.
In our hearts and on our minds.
And you can read it yourself. It's, on the Blizzard website.
Do we want to actually link that below on the YouTube page?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, link below if you're on the YouTube page. If you're not, get on the YouTube page.
If you're not on the YouTube page, you're a loser.
If you're on Spotify,
If you're on Spotify, you're mediocre.
I'll also be in the description on Spotify. But the synopsis is the background as to just the thoughts and opinions and what went on before the Uprising mission itself happened. Basically, Null Sector attacked King's Row, held Mayor Nanda and Mandata hostage. Cassidy was sent down to check out the area, gave his intel. Meanwhile, though, at the Swiss headquarters, Gabriel Reyes showed Cassidy's report to Jack Morrison and Anna Amari, and how the Prime Minister of the UK just kind of didn't want them to help out in the situation.
And they were like, let me handle it. If some people die, they die.
Overwatch was not allowed to help these people, which is just very stressful. So Jack goes to the training facility to witness Tracer and Genji practicing their combat skills, while Mercy and Winston kind of give an update on Tracer's condition, because this was a bit after her incident when she kind of disappeared for a while and then reappeared.
Just a little accident, just a little oopsie daisy. Could have happened to anyone. Drop the toast and bam! 1982.
But yeah, at the time of the comic, she had her chrono accelerator working and was much more stable. Mercy then voices her concerns to Jack that Overwatch needs to get involved with King's Row, but of course, he tells her that they just aren't allowed. Regardless, Jack then requests that Tracer meet him in his office after training, which they do. The two begin to discuss Tracer being promoted to active duty, and she notices how Jack's wall screen had a bunch of headlines about the state of the world, the state of Overwatch, and how London was currently being attacked. They then had a long and private conversation before Jack eventually decided to send out a team to King's Road despite the Prime Minister's orders.
Apparently the law is just a suggestion now.
It always has, it always will be. The several headlines, as said before, were things that mentioned stuff like Blackwatch's scrutiny from the Japanese government, Director Petra's investigating an incident in Cairo, Gerard Lacroix's death and his investigation, Jack being the new leader of Overwatch, does Overwatch is gay?
It turns out Overwatch does is gay.
And a funny thing I noticed when rereading the comic, there's actually, on his bulletin wall, there's like different frames that are screenshots from the game of like, I think it's Widow scoped in, and you can see like the UI and the hero portrait in the corner, and I'm like, huh.
Oh my god. Wait, really? That's beautiful. They were just like, oh, hold on. I don't have access to my drawing tab, but I do have access to the game.
It looks like screen caps, but it's very, very, like, small.
Yeah, that is the game. Straight up, that is the game.
That is fully one of the artists procrastinated for too long and then realized, oh my god, I have this assignment due in like 2 minutes. What do I do? And then he was like,
this just in. Anna Amari is a widow maid.
Brilliant idea.
That leads to many questions, you know. How did she get that? What is Widow zoomed in on?
Is she does gay?
Hubby's dead.
She had to get rid of him for a reason. And we hate to see her husband alive.
Unless it's in the next archives, which he's alive as an NPC.
Don't get him started. You'll give him a big head. Bigger.
I'm looking through the cosmetics list that came out in the first archives event, and honestly, we're kind of spoiled with the amount of skins that we get for each Overwatch 2 season, because it wasn't a lot here. Like, we get like over 20 skins each season, which is 2 months, but then back when events were a thing, you'd have 1 month where there were no events, 1 month that was an event, and you'd only got the new cosmetics were just in the event. But here we had Blackwatch Genji, Blackwatch Cassidy, Combat Medic Ziegler, Null Sector Orisa, Ironclad Torbjorn, and Chief Engineer Lindholm. So Torb got 2 skins that event. Cadet Oxton, Talon Widowmaker, Lieutenant Wilhelm Reinhardt, and Null Sector Bastion. So that is in total like 10 new skins. That is half, like less than half of what we get each season, so it's very interesting.
Yes, but what is different as well, you didn't have to buy those skins. You could play through the game and unlock those good old loot boxes.
Loot boxes, woo!
Yeah, they make the goblin in your brain go burr. No, I screamed when I unlocked Blackwatch Cole, or at the time it was McCree. I screamed so hard in my dorm room, and everyone was like, that girl is crazy. But I got the skin I wanted, so I could stop playing.
He looks so good in his emo era. He doesn't look as good now.
Damn.
Don't like that.
Several people are now hunting you down right now. Because you said that. I just know it.
Why would you say something so bad about our man?
I love his Overwatch 1 skin. And then...
It's a good skin. It's a good skin. Okay, we got you there.
Something happened. And now he looks like less like Cole Cassidy and more like Joe. Joseph Smith.
Not the Mormon prophet.
Calling him a Mormon?
Bad things happened to him.
Bad things happened to him. I'm not gonna be able to look at it. I have to switch off the skin now. I can't be like, oh yeah, no, Cole Cassidy. Like, no, that's Joseph Smith, the Mormon prophet.
Put him back. Put him back.
Mission failed. Get the Prime Minister on the line. I have some explaining to do.
You guys have the comic open? I'm just looking at Winton.
Oh, Winton. I have the official. I think they're officially licensed, but I have Winton Overwatch shin high socks for some reason.
What? I need those right now.
They came in a pack with Winton, just regular Overwatch brand, and then my Pookie Wookie baby girl husband, mother of 3, Gabriel Reyes, but like, the Reaper.
Yeah.
So what's very interesting as well about this comic, while I looking through it and everything, a part of me, I was just reading through and I was like, I feel like there's someone important missing, especially while all of this is happening, because shortly after this event came out, Moira was released into Overwatch. Well, not shortly, but the same year.
Short enough.
Yeah. And I'm just like, ooh, yeah, like, she definitely wanted to get her hands on Tracer when all of that happened.
She was like, I can't fix her, but I can put her in a little box and I can shake her up a little and we'll see what happens.
And it's so interesting to be like looking through all of this with Overwatch because like, Moira was always just like that, the snake, unfortunately. I love her. I love how evil she is. But she was that snake for Blackwatch.
I support women's wrongs. I just like how Winston looks like in this comic. He is very shaped. And also the dude in the back who's just like looking at Genji's stats. That's me. That's actually me checking out his butt.
Baby girlify him. Like they do with Case and all the other people who like are barely there. We should baby girlify him.
Baby, you don't even see his face.
Okay, has that ever stopped anyone?
If anything, we should baby girlify the Hearthstone guard.
We'll talk about the Hearthstone guard when we get to his episode.
I am looking for more background characters for us to baby girlify. If we just find 2, we can ship them. We do see his face, by the way. He turns around.
OMG, I see it.
No, I think that might be another guy because in one panel he has dark brown, maybe black hair, and then in the next panel he has blonde hair. We can ship them together.
Welcome to being a shipper in the Overwatch fandom.
I'm very normal, like I said.
The Overwatch lore community knows how to turn crumbs into a feast. I like calling it corn plating, like the Encanto corn plate. We love corn plating, I feel.
We love corn plating so much.
I got like 3 inches away from my screen to see him turned around in the back corner of that photo. What are we naming these people? The blonde one is giving Jason.
I think that's just the lighting.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah, I think it's the same dude. So, Jason all around. Had a very important role for Uprising. He was making sure that Genji was on his top game to help Tracer train, so they were like, okay, we gotta put Tracer in.
OMG. Is that him as well? We go to where they're like loading up the ship. That might be...
Is he just in the hole?
He's just standing there as people are pushing the turret in.
No, that guy has too much hair.
Oh my god! Jason has a husband!
Let's go!
He's giving Brad.
Jason and Brad, let's go.
Jason and Brad, the new rare pair. I will be very normal about this for a very normal amount of time.
Time to write about them in Rare Pair Week.
Exactly. I'm gonna make it happen.
When Rare Pair Week comes, you know the origin of this ship. People are gonna be like, who the heck are these people?
Who the hell is Chad and Jason?
It's Brad. I can't believe you already forgot their name.
Whatever I named him.
I can't believe you.
He's been named for 5 seconds and I already forgot what it was.
And if you need help, I'll be there, Dr. Ziegler. Don't worry.
There's also the most horrifying frame in Overwatch comic history. Let me send you the photo. This will also be on our Twitter when this episode comes up. And if you don't want to look at that, this is on the bottom of page 11 out of 12.
You'll see, when you see it, you'll know it.
Look at Mercy. Ooh.
Our girlie ain't looking too good.
That's how I look 3 hours into a 5-hour shift.
It's also so weird out of context. You've invested a great deal in your career, after all. Think he likes you. It was so ominous. Girlie, what do you mean?
If someone did that to me, I would be holding my taser.
I love it how she's trying to be all like mysterious and all that, but like it does come across very creepy. It's just like, Miss Mercy, you can't say that to a girlie.
Maybe it wouldn't have been that bad without the face, but you chose to do the face and now it's that bad. And now we're telling HR.
Even Omnics worry about death, but not these Null Sector extremists.
So anyways, I think it's interesting how Null Sector... we've known about Null Sector as a group for 6 years now, and it's developed into something even bigger. I wanted to mention how, like, during the Toronto mission, Liberation, she mentions how these attacks from Null Sector remind her of what happened in Uprising. And of course, Sijin's like, you know, you can feel bad, but we gotta save these people now, so can't change the past, Angela, you idiot. And I was like, I think when Uprising came out, do you remember if you like really thought about what Null Sector was, besides a quote, like extremist group?
No,
I've never had a thought in my entire life.
Yeah, no, when Null Sector, I think to a lot of people at first, they were just like, oh, you know, they're there. Like, the main baddies, it's Talon, it's Talon, it's Talon.
It's always Talon.
Boom, no, it's Null Sector. But, you know, Talon most likely is the puppet master to Null Sector and all that.
Yeah. I don't think I really, like, thought of it either. I was when, like, you know, 6 years ago, very young and dumb, and, like, even the Talon agents in Retribution, I didn't really think too much about, we're killing actual people in lore. I think my baby brain thought they were also Omnics or, like, robots, so it didn't matter. But, like, looking back, I'm like, wait, we are literally killing people, huh?
And it's also kind of funny too, because when that happens, Miss Girly Girl Moira was 100% playing double agent. And imagine being a Talon worker and Moira's just like, hi, me killing you benefits me twice, because number one, I'm getting out of here, and number two, your body's now mine to experiment on.
Borrow a few of your organs. Hope you don't mind. You do need them, but you won't in a minute.
Yeah, I know. Imagine being put on that mission. Like, 100% Talon did not send their best for that because of what we know about Talon and Blackwatch. They 100% sent their ones that they were okay with dying. And do you think those people knew it was a suicide mission?
Yeah, Talon has more quantity than quality, but maybe in the future, because we fought Talon, like normal Talon agent trooper, whatever, normal Talon agents so many times, maybe one day, probably not, we can actually face the Talon members that we know of, like Sombra and Widowmaker and Moira.
You know what? And I would love to try to play Doomfist in a Talon mission. I can't play him in real life, but throw me in a PvE mission as Doomfist, I will be very good.
Speaking of which, this is a good transition because I discovered this today. Ramatra's Retribution voice lines. So, if you follow me on Twitter, I talked about this around Sunday. Basically, I found this YouTube video that had Ramatra voice lines specifically for Retribution-based interactions, like the Talon Assassin, a different type of Talon bot, I think an Enforcer, and like Revive voice lines and whatnot, and like mentioning humans, like working with humans, and like, ugh, I can't believe I have to save you, or something. And it just caught me off guard so hard. Because I know that they recorded a bunch of PvE voice lines in general for different heroes that aren't necessarily involved with missions and lore, for like all hero modes or the special modes that they did with the underworld missions. but Ramatra in there as well. Not only that, because I know that he also had like Overwatch 2 PvE voice lines where it's like defending objectives, picking up something. Those are for like other heroes had those types of Overwatch 2 PvE voice lines, even though they weren't necessarily being like able to be picked. But Ramatra having PvE lines based on actions that happened in an event in 2017 is very interesting.
Yep. But I also think someone said it's because Ramatra was delayed. His release was delayed. Same with Malga's. And so I think that's why he had those lines, because he was supposed to come out for that.
Yeah, I mean, so 2019 was Storm Rising, and Sigma came out around that year, if I'm correct. Because I know that Sigma's kit was originally going to be for Malga, but it didn't fit Malga's personality or style, so they just made Sigma to fit the kit that they already came up with instead. I know that Ramatra was delayed, but it just like caught me off guard so much, because it was like, when you don't know that information, it's voice lines for Ramatra 1, working against Talon, 2, working with other people, 3, working with humans.
Mm-hmm.
So I just found that random obscure YouTube video of that data mined voice lines, and it's not on his voice line page either.
And we know it's not AI because there's just something about the Ramatra AI where it just does not sound correct. This is our man, our myth, our legend.
Goose played me a thing of AI Ramatra, and I nearly took my skin off. It was terrible.
Very out of character for him. Unless they plan on actually using those lines, it doesn't make sense for them to be like diegetic whatsoever. But if it's non-diegetic, maybe like if they do an all heroes for Retribution, they bring Retribution back, or maybe some other Talon related PvE mission and do all heroes, including the new Overwatch 2 heroes. That would be very cool. Please.
It would. Anyway, bring Retribution back.
Yes. It's kind of went off topic as per usual, but I just wanted to point it out because funny data mined voice lines that I never heard before.
Do you want to play one actually really quickly? Give them a little taste of what you discovered?
Yes.
I'm gonna do the one where he's like, "Ew, touch me."
Don't touch me! Get off me, human! An enforcer. Is this the best Talon can do? We have no time to play games with this assassin.
Yay, Ramatra! Always showing up in random places.
Like that one cutscene in Storm Rising. I remember all the figures people had for Ramatra at that end scene. Could have been anyone else, but nope. Trust a silly little robot guy who suffers.
I've never seen the streets so empty before. Doesn't even feel like London.
This might be a potentially hot take, but Tracer gets too much attention.
She's like the poster girl. I feel like she does get a lot of attention.
Yeah, but when you have almost 40 heroes now, it's I just want it to be equal for everyone, you know? I get that she's Tracer Overwatch, but like 4 cinematics, comics, 2 archives missions, her own comic series, a Christmas comic that was mostly about her, and her wonderful girlfriend.
We love you, Emily.
I love you, Emily.
The only spouse I don't hate.
Spouse?
Partner, spouse. The only significant other that I do not have with.
I remember everyone freaking out about the formal skins and being like, OMG, Tracer Emily wedding?
And then nothing happened.
Yeah, no. It'd be funny, guys. It'd be funny, guys, though, if you still did that, guys. You know, progress the lore by a few months.
It would be like so funny. That would be like such a hilarious joke. I would be so normal about that joke because it would just be a joke and I definitely wouldn't take it seriously.
Well, if we think about it, Reflections took place in Overwatch 1, and now it's Overwatch 2, so it's been 2 years. They've been dating for at least 2 years. Maybe an engagement is soon.
I hope.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's lesbians. They're already married. 100%.
That's a bastion setting up. Take it out, or that gun will chew us to pieces.
When have you ever made something fragile?
I like how in the, I think the promotional blog post for Uprising, it's specifically for all heroes. It gives a few like pointers on who is and isn't good to play for all heroes in Uprising. And it's like, Widowmaker is ill-advised to use due to the lack of elevated positions and the erratic movements of Null Sector Omnics, making critical shots difficult. While you're free to choose any combination of 4 heroes, it's still best to balance your team similarly to the default Uprising team with the shield user, healer, and DPS.
It's just like, yeah, you can be creative, but...
It's just interesting to see that they gave actual like tips on the comp and kits at the time, and also using the word healer.
Look, as a support girly, I'm okay if they call us a healer sometimes. It'd be like that.
I just wouldn't expect an official blog post to call them that as well. Because now, yeah, in the story missions, there's like no guide. Like, you just play whatever you want and you get through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see that they stopped giving these pointers. I guess because, you know, things constantly change.
Yeah, balancing's always different.
And it's a more permanent thing, not just an event game mode. So there's no real need to do that if things are going to change, as you can still play them, but the kits and the heroes are different.
Oh, cruel fate! Take me next time!
Uprising is our first Archives event. We'll obviously be looking into Retribution and Storm Rising in the future, but this was just a little taste of how Overwatch integrated PvE and their lore. Well, I think that's about it for now. Obviously, this episode is a bit shorter than our pilot. Pilots are usually a bit longer, but yeah, we're still experimenting here anyways.
Well, get ready for the 9-hour Hanzo episode then.
32-hour Gabriel Reyes appreciation episode, complete with a tier list, complete with a face reveal, complete with I go to his house, complete with I break into his house, complete with I interview his son, complete with I take a DNA sample of his son, complete with I steal pieces of his clothing and don't tell him.
Complete with you getting arrested.
Complete with me being arrested and posting bail with his credit card.
Not his credit card.
Sorry, I took out a loan on your house. The charges started stacking.
Anyway, this is Commander Nea.
And I'm Commander Reyes Thighs.
And I'm Acting Commander Dave Geese-Goose. And this has been Lorewatch. See you next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I somehow got offered a job at a bank from my job at a fast food place.
Oh, that's funny because I just applied for a job at a bank as someone who worked at a fast food place.
Really lowering their standards.
God damn, they were just like, hey, we like you.
They were like, you have a great customer service voice. Here's my business card. I'm a financial manager.
I would take that.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah. You get to do those bank holidays.